Woman at Point Zero, one among the very best and notorious feministic novels to ever happen to exist in this world. And today on this video, I'm bringing you a deep dive analysis of this book, which was written by Nawal El Saadawi. The book depicts the oppression, bitterness, exploitation, and every sort of segregation and torture which women are receiving from patriarchal world in which we are living right now. So before jumping into thematic analysis of the book, maybe I shall first beg some very few minutes to do a book overview, or maybe to give you a book summary, so that we must all together, you and me, have clear understanding of what we are dealing with while passing through other sections of analysis. The book have three parts, whereby the first part, Nawal El Saadawi is giving us a background, how she has met with Firdaus, who is the main character in the book. Since we shall learn that the story evolves around the life of Firdaus, the oppressed, the tortured, segregated, and who has lived such miserable life in patriarchal society of Egypt. So Egypt has been used as a specific setting of the book, or maybe you can say the setting of the book, but symbolically this book symbolizes the whole world in general. So in this first part, Nawal El Saadawi explains to us that she had met Firdaus when she was doing a research into prison, where she was conducting a neurotics research into which it was focusing on researching of people's behavior, those people who have been convicted with different offenses. So she, while doing research with those inmates of which she was given, she was told by the doctor of the prison about the other woman who has been convicted with murder offense. So he told him that she is quite different from other murderers women who are existing now in the prison. And Nawal El Saadawi get caught with the idea of meeting this woman who is known as Firdaus, so that maybe she could get a chance to talk to her. And her very main ideas was that she was thinking maybe Firdaus could not commit such kind of murder, as she was convicted for murder offense of killing a man. Though a doctor insisted that no one, you cannot maybe guess who can commit murder and who cannot, but he told Saadawi that he had tried to file an appeal for her, so that maybe the president could spare her from death penalty, and maybe her sentence could be turned onto life imprisonment, but she refused to sign the appeal. So the appeal was to be signed by the specific prisoner to whom the appeal is about, but she didn't sign it at all. The meeting which Saadawi hoped to arrange with this woman who is called Firdaus was rejected by Firdaus herself. Firdaus rejected to meet Saadawi, though Saadawi kept insisting and using every kind of efforts, but Firdaus kept rejecting from meeting Saadawi, at the extent that Saadawi entered onto self-confidence crisis, thinking that maybe Firdaus is such a better person than her, is such a better woman than her, and maybe she even thought that Firdaus is even better than the president of the country, because she has refused to sign an appeal which could go there to the president, so that maybe she could be spared from death penalty. So she entered on self-confidence crisis, into which one loses confidence on oneself. So she lost confidence on herself, and she felt very bad for being rejected. Mind you that this is one among the very minor things which you should keep in your mind, because this character Firdaus had this behavior of rejecting people. You see, throughout the book has been used this thing, and you shall learn why is she using this book. But let us continue with the second part of the book, and maybe before we enter there, maybe let me ask you, keenly beg you to subscribe our channel, which goes by the name of Mr. Tingatinga Literature TV, the channel which bring you his finest literary works, analysis and reviews. So at the end of the first part of our book, we see Firdaus accepts to meet Nawal El Saadawi just at the day of execution. So while she was about to be executed in the evening, she allowed or maybe she accepted to meet Nawal El Saadawi in the morning. And then Nawal El Saadawi, while she had already given up on the idea of meeting Firdaus, and already in self-confidence crisis, we can say, or mental problem of being rejected, she is being called one while she was about to leave the prison, the prison area. She was about to leave with her car. So the warden of the prison came and called her that Firdaus has accepted and wants to meet him, so that maybe they may have a talk. When the second part of the book starts, we see these two people meet and starts to talk as Firdaus wants the doctor, that is Nawal El Saadawi, to sit down quiet and listen, because she don't have enough time, as she is being she shall be taken to be executed anytime sooner. So the story starts, or maybe the second part starts, as Firdaus starts to give out her life experience. I can tell you that this book is creative non-fiction, as it tells us about the life of a real person who has once existed to live in this world, but there are some creative features which has been added, so just maybe to put it to be as a novel as it is today. So Firdaus starts to explain about her childhood. You can see Firdaus tells us about her young experience life, as she lived in such an impoverished life together with her mother and father. The family, which had 3 members, living in a very poor and miserable condition. She used it to work in the field, to take care of the animals, to feed them, and to do different houseworks, you see. And during her childhood, she tells us about her childhood friend, that is Muhammadin, and with whom they were playing a bride and groom game. And she later on explains that she had a thirsty clitoral stimulation with this boy. So they had started to play sexy games, and she had her first clitoral stimulation with this boy, and she explains how she felt good by having such stimulation. Later on, she tells us that her mother had brought some woman at home who circumcised her with a knife, and she explains the bitter feelings which she had after being circumcised, and the loss of affections she had at the beginning. And she said that she was stopped. She was rejected from going to play again with this Muhammadin, and now she was just performing houseworks. And you see, she used to have her uncle who visited them every now and then when he had school leave. You see, while at home, her uncle used to cuddle her, to touch her, or maybe to stimulate her the same as Muhammadin was doing to her, but she had less affectionate now than she had before. And she tells that she could not have such feelings which she experienced before, and those feelings was like it is because some part of her body is missing, and she couldn't tell which part was exactly missing. So we see the issue of circumcision there has already seen. We see the issue of poverty. As you see, they were living such miserable life, and she tells that she don't understand. She fails maybe to understand the implication of religiousness of her father, because her father used it to beat her mother every now and then. Later on, she tells because this story she narrates to Nawal El Saadawi, who is the author of this book, and now we are reading maybe the story of which she is now telling in the book. So after time, she tells us that her parents died. You see, both of her parents, mother and father, died, and then her uncle taken her with him and went to live with her, of which he had taken her to school and started to attend primary level education. And at first, she never attended school as she was taken care by her father and mother, and she never told us why. But her uncle was kept studying, so you can see how girls are being maybe segregated from schooling opportunity to get education, from education opportunity. So now her uncle taken her to school, and she explains that she had such a close, passionate relationship with her uncle, and the relationship went on until when her uncle gets married, married to some woman, and then their close, affectionate, passionate relationship then gets lost, and the distance between her and her uncle get lost. You see, the life with her auntie-in-law now became intense, and their relationship was not quite good, so that her uncle decided to take her to boarding school as she was now going or attending secondary school level education. There at secondary school, she is telling us that she did well with her studying, and she was such a girl who liked to read very much, and she loved school at a very much or big extent. As you can see that at school, her friends used to be visited with their parents and guardians every now and then, but she was never visited neither by her uncle nor her auntie, and see that she had no any other relatives which she had ever maybe lived to know, or maybe she had never told in the book that she had even any other relative apart from these two. So she studied very well, and at last of her schooling, she became second on the final examination, whereby to the national level, she became the 8th student in the national examination. So at the graduation day, at the final day of departure at school, there were a ceremony held by the school, and they were to be given the certificates. You see, neither of her guardians, neither her uncle nor her auntie attended the ceremony, and during the studies or during the time when she was at school, she experienced that she had some affectionate feelings with Miss Gipsy, one among her female teachers, but this female teacher never gave any chance to be close with her when they were there. And you see that during the graduation, the ceremony day, where she had to go with her guardian or parent there in front to receive her certificate award, you see, no one had showed up from her family, and then Miss Gipsy acted like she was her guardian and signed the register on behalf of her parents. You see, she explains to us that though she loved Miss Gipsy, but since the day she had never seen Miss Gipsy again in her life. So now Firdaus go back to home, to her uncle's home, whereby she tells us that now her uncle has children. So her chance of being there, maybe all of living or of enjoying life there now, get maybe very low. You see, chance of enjoying the life there become very, very small. So she lives such miserable life, and she don't like to be there, as her auntie never liked to see her living there. As you can see, her uncle put on the table some number of proposals which could maybe take out of the house this girl or this woman who is called the Firdaus. When her auntie proposes that her uncle shall take her to the university or to the college, you see her uncle opposes the idea that he cannot take the daughter maybe of her sister somewhere where she could get collaborating, or maybe she should live with men face to face. That would be bringing her niece to the sinful place. So again, her auntie proposes that maybe they should marry to her old uncle who is now retired and has 60 years old. So that idea then get accepted by Firdaus's uncle, and so Firdaus was married to Sheikh Mahmoud, who had 60 years old, and now we are told that Firdaus has nearly 19 years old. So you can see this is early childhood betrothal, early marriage, and you can see this is forced marriage. As you can see, Firdaus was not willing to the marriage, as she attempted even to escape at home. Though she failed to cope with life at the street, she returned the same day when she left home, and then she had no any other choice than accepting to marry this old uncle of her auntie-in-law. Old uncle of her auntie-in-law, that is called Sheikh Mahmoud, who had no wife, as his wife had already died, and she was a retired man. You can see after living in her time in her marriage, you see the marriage didn't went good, and reaching the point that she escaped again after being beaten and oppressed, accused, tortured. You see, every kind of oppression was done to her, and at the end she failed to cope with them, and she escaped from her husband, went on to the street. You see, this time she get helped by the coffee owner, who was called the Bayomi. Bayomi met Firdaus when Firdaus was beaten by her husband, and she was bleeding all over her face. So Bayomi took Firdaus to his home and lived with her for a very long time. You see, not less than a year. You see, they lived well. She get to eat. You see, before then, she explains that Bayomi happened to be one among the very few, or maybe the only one who had ever cared or showed maybe such much care for her, because Bayomi fed her without any maybe disturbance. You see, she gave her somewhere to sleep, a nice place to sleep, different or quite differently from the places she was given to sleep, maybe when she was living even at home with her parents or maybe with her uncle. So Bayomi happened to be a very good person at first to her, and then later on he changed it totally after when Firdaus presented the idea of going to fetch or to look for job. As you can see, Bayomi promised that he could look or he could find Firdaus a job, but the time has passed, but he had never did so. So Firdaus asked that if he could go, she could go and fetch for job by herself. You see, Bayomi changed it totally, beat Firdaus and locked her into the room. You see, he just kept her into the room and raped her, and also sometimes came with his friends and allowed them to rape Firdaus. You see, it went on like that until the time when Firdaus get the help from the neighbor, who called the carpenter and they broke the door, and so Firdaus escaped. This one's time again, she went on and met with another person when she was resting after running very far away from Bayomi's home. She met there with another character who is known Sharifa Salah El-Din. Sharifa, she was a high-class prostitute who used the Firdaus to make a profit of her own. You see, she had taken Firdaus and brought her to her home, gave Firdaus very good basic needs, and used it to bring men to sleep with Firdaus in return of payments. And those payments were never ever given to Firdaus. So she exploited Firdaus intensively. But very important thing, you see, Firdaus, she's telling us that this woman has taught her something which she had never understood before. She taught her about the factual or the nature of power. So she told her that power is a dynamic thing. You see, Firdaus used it to understand like men has power over woman, like her father had power over her mother, and every man has power over any woman. So now this classical prostitute who called the Sharifa taught Firdaus that no, you have power when you have something which is needed, and so you must learn to get profit from it. And she told her that she could use maybe her body in some profitable way by making men pay for sex service from her, and she should make sure that no any cheap man touches her, and she should bargain the highest price as she wants to a man, because a man will be ready to pay any price as long as you will show as long as you will show some rejections over him. So he will just try to fight the rejection, because man have rejected themselves naturally. Any man in this world has self-rejection feelings. So if you reject him and you name the bigger price maybe for the acceptance, so he will pay just to be accepted. So this is a very vital thing which Firdaus says that she was taught by this high-class prostitute who is called the Sharifa. At the end of the day, she built some hope over her that she could be her life savior. But later on, you see this Firdaus meet another character who is called Fauzi. Fauzi happened to be a male friend of Sharifa, and happened to oppress Sharifa. So this thing made Firdaus awaken that, oh, even Sharifa has no such power that she claimed to have. Oh, so she escaped from Sharifa's home while Sharifa was laying on her bed after being raped by Fauzi. They were still in the bed. So as Firdaus was sleeping on the other room, she escaped and went on to the street again. There she met with police officer who forced her to sleep with him without being paid, promising her that he could pay the other day. But after getting separated from the police, he went to the street where he met another man. As it was raining, the man helped her into the car, and he went with her to his home. There he slept with her, and he paid her 10 pounds. That is the first time which Firdaus tells us that she had ever held her money, the money which was her own. So this was the first time since she was given one pierce by her father when she was very young. So after this, she managed to understand how she could maybe make money from her body, and she became a professional classical prostitute, a wealthy prostitute. You see, she worked on prostitution and get a very nice life. You see, she had a chance to live a very good life, at the extent that she had some servants employed to work for her, and she worked the time she wished, and she had time to enjoy her life alone. You see, at the end, she went on, met with some friend who changed her life. That is called Dia. Dia, he was a journalist and one-time client of Firdaus. You see, Dia told the Firdaus that the work which she was doing was not a respectable work, and those words made Firdaus change their career. You see, although she tried to fight against them, but they hunted her down until the day she decided to change her career and went on to ask for a job, and of course get a job to a private company where she worked for some years, and she was comfortable as she won the idea, or maybe the thing of which is called the Hana. You see. So in this book also, the theme of the idea of respect is among the themes which has been presented. You see, what people sees like prostitution is not a respectable work. so that one shall have a respectable work. This thing brought Firdaus to work into a private company into which she enjoyed the life, but later on she tells us that she had fallen in love with Ibrahim, that is a co-worker in the same company, but later on Ibrahim is seemed to have relationship and have announced the courtship with the chairman's daughter. So then Firdaus realized that Ibrahim was just using her for sex once again, and that made her very furious, very angry, and from that she went back to her old profession, that is prostitution, and this time again she made out a very, very, very good life, expensive life, as when she was working at a private company, she even failed to manage to rent a house like one she was living while she was a prostitute. But right now again she went back to a very beautiful life and very expensive life. This time around she met with another barrier, whereby she met with a pimp. A pimp is someone who maybe controls prostitutions, controls prostitutes in a town. You can see this pimp wanted to have Firdaus as one among the prostitutes that he controls. Firdaus wanted to struggled on every way to oppose being under this pimp, but this pimp seemed to have such much power. You see, while Firdaus tried maybe to confront a policeman, you see she realized that this pimp had already better connections than her. He had some police officers, he had some lawyers, he had nearly on every government office he had a person who he was working with. You see, those old people were helping him. Maybe once one among his prostitute get impregnated, you see, he had a doctor who could help him with abortion. Once when one among his prostitutes were caught, he had a policeman who could help to release those prostitutes. You see, if one prostitute maybe among those who are under his supervision was taken maybe to court, he had a judge maybe who could help to rescue that prostitute. So it was such kind of a person who Firdaus failed to escape from. You see, this one never needed corruption, because Firdaus tells us that he had met with some policemen who everyone confronted her, she was able maybe to bribe them and they could leave her alone. But this pimp wanted to share all her earnings, and he didn't want any one-time payment, you see. So Firdaus became under this pimp for a very long time, until when she became tired of being under someone. You see, the freedom maybe which she was thinking she could be having while performing her prostitution profession, she thought it would be anyhow with some greater freedom, you see, but it didn't turn on her way. So she decided like she would return again to any respectable work, and she was ready again to carry on to take her certificates, her secondary certificate and the primary school certificate, so that she could go and look for another job. You see, this pimp happened to confront her before she had left to the house where she was living, and denying her to go anywhere, telling that who told her that anyone in this world can work the work he need or she needs, who told her that? So it was like he was presenting the idea of masters and slaves, saying that in this world, the whole world, there is two classes of people. There are masters and the slaves. So maybe Firdaus was forced to believe that she was a slave and this pimp was her master. You see, on confrontation, Firdaus killed this man by using a knife of which he was holding, and then escaped from that home alone. You see, the way she dressed up, you see, no one even suspected her to have killed a person until when he met with a prince who was driving a very nice car, a very nice expensive car. And as usual, that prince asked Firdaus, hi, how much, you see, maybe was seducing, you see, asking, you see, those people, I don't know how they were buying prostitutes, but in this book, you can see this prince asking to have sex with Firdaus, and Firdaus says, no, I don't want. He says, hey, I will pay you. He said, no, you cannot pay the money I want. I will pay you 1,000 pounds. Firdaus says, no, I don't want. And again, she says, oh, I'll pay you 2,000. Firdaus stops and says, maybe if you pay 3,000. You see, that prince said, I pay you 2,000 and 2,000 pounds. Firdaus stopped and said, hey, maybe if you pay, asked that prince that, can you pay 3,000? And that prince accepted it. Yeah, I can pay. So they went on and he slept with that prince. You see, throughout the story, Firdaus explained that she never enjoyed the sex. She never enjoyed having sex. So every now and then, you see, it's like all men have the same kind of foolishness, because every man she had ever slept with was asking her, are you enjoying? Are you enjoying? That is a foolish question that she even maybe get tiresome of hearing it from men. So again, this prince was asking the same question, and all the time Firdaus tells us that she was annoyed with the question, but she kept answering that she enjoys the activity. So now, after finishing having sex with this, you saw Firdaus tells the prince that she had killed a man, and although this prince was at first not believing in Firdaus beat that prince very heavily to the extent that the prince started to cry out like a woman, and then police came, caught Firdaus and taken her to the police station. You see, while asking her what the prince have did to you, you see, Firdaus kept answering such questions which maybe they thought she was such kind of maybe mad. And the prince kept telling the policeman that, hey, don't let that woman go, she is a murderer. The policeman when are asking now Firdaus, hey, have you committed murder? Sure. Firdaus answered that, yes, I've killed. You see, it was like something which they didn't expect it to happen, but he was confessing that she had killed. So under this situation, we are told that even when she was taken to the court and then to the prison, she never rejected, and she had never get even afraid of also being killed for the case for the offense she has committed. You see, she said that they gave her a death sentence because they are afraid of her, and her life means their death, and their life means her death. So they are killing Firdaus just because they are afraid of dying. So you can see that the idea of woman at point zero comes there at the end of the book, where Firdaus now is at fullest realization that she knows who she is, and now she has such kind of potential of going, or maybe of doing